Hey everybody, it's Kim from Jessica's Reading Room, and we are back with another video book review. Everybody seemed to like the genre review that I did of the manga books that I read, so we figured we'd try it with a regular book and see if everybody still likes it. Today we are going to be reviewing the book What the Night Sings by Vesper Stamper. This one is actually relatively new. I stumbled on it one day at Barnes & Noble. I went and looked on Amazon and decided to buy it. It's one of those books that just kind of calls to you. And before we go any further, before I give you, the synopsis or anything, look at the cover. And the cover is gorgeous, but look at this. Watch this. Are you ready? Oh, look at the binding underneath. You guys know I love a good cover and a good binding, so yes, I got pretty excited when I took the cover off and I found this. It's not super sparkly, but that's okay. It's still gorgeous. All right, so this book, What the Night Sings, is about a girl named Gerda. She is a musician. She aspires to be a world famous opera performer. Her father is a violist and ends up teaching her how to play the viola. Everything is just going as well as could be during World War II, when all of a sudden she and her father are arrested and sent to a concentration camp. The problem is Gerda didn't realize that she was Jewish. Her father and her stepmother had kept it a secret from her. So all of a sudden, when she finds herself in a cattle car heading out to a concentration camp, her father then has to explain to her that he tried to keep it secret. He tried to keep them sequestered in their apartment, and hopefully they'd be able to survive the rest of the war without being arrested and exterminated. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So the story starts out at the very end of the war with the camp being liberated. Now, as you guys all know, I love a good Holocaust book. I'm a historian, what can I say? But one of the reasons why I love Alan Gratz and his books are that they give a really good, relatable perspective from a teenager, and they're great to use for education, frankly, from upper elementary school all the way through high school. This book, I would definitely save it for upper high school, but this is also another one that I'd say belongs on every history teacher's shelf. I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it am I allowed to start doing fraction stars? So can I give it a 4.5 star? Since it wasn't quite perfect, but yet I don't want to give it a 4-star and make it sound, make it less than it is. I don't know. So we're going to go ahead and give it a 4.5 star. I really, really liked this book, and plus, let me show you part of the reason why I loved this book, because it's absolutely fantastic. There are, well, if I can find what I'm looking for, there are illustrations, and they're beautiful. It's not a graphic novel, but there are a lot of illustrations in this book, and it really enhanced the reading of it for me. So I really enjoyed that. There are illustrations throughout the whole book, and I really enjoyed it. What I very much liked about this book is that the perspective is different, because actually by the time this book starts, Gerda is in a camp that has been liberated. That's something that we actually don't hear a lot about, is that, we hear about those who died, we heard about the gas chambers, and yes, you'll hear stories from survivors, but most of those stories that they tell are from when the Nazis still had control of the camps. We don't hear a lot about what happened as soon as all those camps were liberated. And that was something I really enjoyed about this book, is that it tackled those issues, and it did it in a very realistic way. This is a YA book, and there is not, well, let me clarify. There is some teenage drama in this book, but it's not the super annoying kind of teenage drama. Basically, Gerda, once she is liberated, she ends up meeting, two guys. One she kind of lusts after, the other one she loves, as a friend. She ends up trying to decide between the two of them. A lot of complicated teenage stuff happens, but the way she handles all of it, it's very normal teenage stuff, but because it's happening to her, it almost seems like it's more of a triumph because she gets to be a normal teenager. Does that make sense? I mean, she survived the concentration camp. She went from being someone who was trying to concentrate on not starving to death, not getting all of the diseases that ran rampant, trying to do her work sufficiently so she won't be sent to the gas chambers, not making any eye contact with anyone just in case they decide to just randomly shoot her. She went from being that 16-year-old to all of a sudden being a regular 16-year-old. And so while there is some teenage drama, it's handled far differently, and by the time you're done with it, you end up cheering her on because she gets to be a normal teenager. I loved how it got down into the smaller details of what happens now. What do we do now? Once camps were liberated, it's not like people could just go back to their homes because there were people who were then living in their homes. Well, what do? Do we kick these people out? How can we kick these people out? Do you have proof that this house belongs to you? It's those little kind of details that never occur to us because we're all just happy. Oh, look, yay, these people survived. That's wonderful. But what happens now? Gerda ends up being at a displaced persons camp. There's the possibility of going to the newly formed state of Israel. She tries to pick up her music all over again. Her music was actually something that helped to keep her alive in the concentration camps. As Dr. Mengele, was sorting people as they got off the train, there was an orchestra playing, and because she knew how to play the viola, she was in that orchestra. So, finding passion in her music again, finding her singing voice, and then it also does a lot of looking back, telling the story of what happened before, what happened that led them to be arrested. And again, this is another really good Holocaust education tool, because not only is it an enjoyable book and it's got beautiful illustrations in it, but the perspective is just different enough that you think about things differently, if that makes any kind of sense. And so, I thankfully this one was not like weepy, ugly cry emotional. This was more, you get a contented feeling in the pit of your stomach, kind of emotional. By the time I was done with it, you've got one part of you that's, devastated that all these people died, but then there's, this other part of you that's so happy that, that Gerda, who you became emotionally attached to, she survived. And it just the way Stamper tackles the things that Gerda had to deal with, I very much appreciated it. I loved it. It's just a great new perspective that we can then learn from. It's not overly complicated. Like I said, I would save this for upper high school students, but giving it to them and having them think about these things, such as what comes next, I think it's a great perspective to look at. I think it's a great book. It's easy to read. So I give it 4.5 stars out of 5. It's awesome. Everybody should read it. If nothing else, then the cover is gorgeous. And underneath the cover is gorgeous. And the illustrations are beautiful. And the story is wonderful. Oh my gosh. See, isn't it nice to have a positive video book review. I felt so bad after the manga one because it felt like I was being so negative. But this one I get to be so positive because this book is so good. You know, by the time you're done, you feel like you've just lived her life with her. You just become so emotionally invested in the story, in what happens next. I really do like the author. In the back of the book, it actually shows she documented her progress because she's actually the artist as well. I'm sorry, I don't know if I mentioned that. She is also the artist, and so not only does she talk about her research in trying to decide, you know, what to write for the story, it also shows the progression that the illustrations took. You know, from starting with charcoal and then going to pastel and then going to paint and then going to watercolor, etc., etc. I'm not an artist. I'm not going to pretend to know all about that. I'm so sorry. I am neither artist nor musician. That's just the way it is. But even I can appreciate, you know, her putting down on paper her process, and it was really good. I loved it. You know, as a former teacher, as a historian, I cannot recommend this book enough, especially for teenagers. I mean, it astounds me how little teenagers are being taught nowadays about the Holocaust. And I think that giving them this book to read is a great way of helping them along with it. So if you know a teenager who knows nothing about the Holocaust, give them this book or give them a book by Alan Gratz and it would be perfect. So there you go. There is our book review for What the Night Sings by Vesper Stamper. I highly recommend it. 4.5 stars out of 5. Make sure you tell us what you're thinking down in the comments. Tell us what your favorite Holocaust story, I guess that could be either fiction or nonfiction. That's totally fine with me. You tell me your favorite Holocaust literature to read. And there you go. You have any comments or questions, you make sure you put them down. Share us with all of your friends. And we'll see you later for the next review. All right. Bye.